This is the King's Law Podcast. It's episode 001. This episode is about what thekingslaw.com is, why I felt it necessary to make it, what this podcast will be about, and why I felt the need to make it. This is my first time doing this, so I'm going to take my time. But we can get into it. And there's not going to be a bunch of cutting and things like that in this. You know, I'm not a master Pro Tools user. I work with me as we build, right? So the website, I put this up about a year ago. No, actually, no, really a year ago. Not to the day, but about a year ago. That's after I came up with all, like, if you go to the website, right, it's www.thekingslaw.com. There's a list of quotes from the Bible in there, or quotes from the Torah, right? Because the Bible and the Torah are the same thing. It's the books Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, which are called the books of law, right? Because they have the Mosaic laws in them, which are the laws from Moses. And the backstory behind me putting that up there is, like, in 2017, I already had a copy of the Bible, right? I was raised in church like most of us, raised in a Philadelphia church, a Kojic church. I don't claim to be, we'll talk about religion later, but like, I don't go to church anymore or anything like that. And I definitely had a Bible before 2017, but I bought a Bible for myself in 2017 and actually read it, right? I felt like it was time for me to read it. I was 27 years old at the time. And when I bought it, I decided I was going to read it from front to back. Like, I was going to start at page 1 and I was going to read it to the last page and not skip anything. Make sure I paid attention as best I could for the entire reading. I didn't read it in one sitting. It took me about a year and a half to read it because, one, I read pretty slowly, and two, the King James version of the Bible isn't that easy to read. It's a lot of words I didn't understand in there, and a lot of stuff that we don't say today. So I had to look it up and try to make it make sense. And I knew before I read the Bible that I always believed in God, right? So anytime anybody would, like, question God or question people who had faith in God and things like that, I was always afraid of that. Like, it was just something inside of me. Like, I don't even think it had anything to do with church, because, like, I didn't even really, like, subscribe to church like that. I mean, I respected my teachers and things like that, mainly because my Sunday school teacher, she taught my dad Sunday school, right? So I respected my teachers. They like family to me, right? We all like a family from West Philadelphia, at least my father, right, and my grandfather. So these people, they was in my life before I was born, so I respected them. I respected that church because that church was a part of my life before I was born. But as far as, like, I went to Sunday school, but my dad never took us to church, right? Everybody had to make it to see the Eagles game, and church was going on the same time as the Eagles game. So we went to Pop's house and watched the Eagles game. We didn't go to church. We just went to Sunday school. Sunday school was early. Not to say he wasn't devoted, you know what I mean? We spent time reading the Bible at home and things like that. Not to get too far off track, but I did believe in God at all times. I always had a healthy fear of God, but I had never read the Bible. Only thing I knew about the Bible was, stuff that my dad had took the time to read to us when we were children, which was little excerpts or, like, different books spread throughout the Bible, and to teach us different things that he thought we might have been getting into, that he thought was good or bad, so we would correct ourselves, right? And then, but we never read it straight through. Right. And I just knew, like, me having faith, like, just something inside me told me, like, when I want to become an adult, I'm going to have to read the Bible. Right. Because I don't really know what's in there. I can't really say what's in there, but aside from what was taught to me in Sunday school and what my dad read, because I never read it by myself. Right. And at that time, when I was 27, I had 3 children. Right. I was already married. Already, like, I graduated from college, had a house, things like that. And then I was going through some tough times. I don't think that made me read the Bible because I was going through tough times. It was just something inside of me telling me to read it. Like, yo, you tripping. Like, you gotta, go get a copy and really read it. Like, stop playing around. Like, your life depends on it. It was something inside of me telling me, like, yo, your life depends on you reading this book. Like, your life hasn't really started yet. And boom, so I picked up a copy and I started reading from page 1. And like I told you, it took me like a year and a half or something like that to finish reading it. But I read it on and off throughout that year and a half. It wasn't like I was sitting there reading it, militantly every day, a certain amount of pages. I went months without reading it. And I'll pick it back up because, bad stuff just kept happening to me when I wouldn't read it, right? And upon reading the book, right, I went through the first 5 books first because I read it in order. And I noticed there was a lot of rules in there that I had never heard of before because nobody talked about them in church, right? I was like, this is my first reading, though. So, like, I'm reading this at the time, like, I was going through a divorce. So I was homeless. I was sleeping in my car and stuff like that. And a lot of you folks who go to church and things like that, I'm just going to be myself on this podcast. When I was younger, I had a lot of respect, because my father don't curse. My mom curse a little bit. But, I kind of curse. So if something slipped, like, just being myself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a preacher, cuz. Like, I'm not trying to act like I'm a preacher either. I'm over here just giving out information just in case you should take this journey. But just in case, you need some help or you want somebody to, like, who's already gone on this journey to maybe give you, like, some foresight into what may happen. This is what this is here for, right? So I read the first 5 books and I was like, there's a lot of stuff in here that I never seen and never heard of from the pastor, from anybody, right? Like, just, and it was rules to life. Cause I always knew, like, in the inside of me, like, the bad things that happened to me or the bad things that I did, the bad spirits I brought about myself and the bad spirits that people brought upon themselves was from them doing wrong and continuing to do wrong, right? And wrong is kind of, it's kind of up for debate if there are no rules in place, especially if you believe in God, right? If you believe in God and there are no black and white rules in place, wrong is up for, is based on whoever's opinion, whoever's judging you, right? Some people may say, well, scamming ain't that wrong, as long as there's no victim, right? If I run your credit card, you get the money back. You know what I mean? It's just the bank. The bank loses a little bit of money, but that money's fake anyway. It's not backed by gold or anything. So nobody's really. People can explain wrong. People can make things wrong or right based on however they feel at the time, right? So, but I just knew. I'm like, yo, if God created everything, which I firmly believe God created everything, right? You can't, like I graduated college. I've been around a lot of people who people would think are, intelligent or smart. And it's just like, it's no way you can tell me this planet exists. All this stuff goes around and the balance just hangs in the air, stays at the perfect, parts per million mixture of whatever, oxygen and whatever else. And all this is just a coincidence like that. Like, if you think that's wild to me, and the fact that it just keeps going and people keep being born, and the fact that you, however old you are, whether you're a year, 365 days old, or whether you're 10 years old, 3,650 days old, or 100 years old, right? The fact that you made it here, right? All the cars going by, the planes flying over your head, the sun never got too hot and just cooked you. The fact that you made it here, like, you think that's a coincidence? That ain't make no sense. You know what I mean? And the fact that your mom could even give birth to you, the fact that your mom has all the facilities to, like, and all these animals have all the facilities to keep reproducing, and they do keep reproducing, like, bro, if you think that's a coincidence, you live in a wild world to me. But I read and I saw these rules for the first time in my life, right? I knew something was in the Bible, that needed to be read, and I needed to, incorporate into my life. I just didn't know what it was, right? Because before this, all I got was a bunch of spiritual types of, you see the 10 Commandments, right? And then other than that, when you in church, you get a bunch of excerpts that you got to memorize and stuff like that and repeat when it's time for everybody to, get together at the end of Sunday school and things like that. But that's all I got from it, and which was a lot of valuable stuff, a lot of stuff that, I learned and applied in my life. But I had never seen all these commandments and things like that I was reading when I started reading it straight through. I was pretty shocked. I was telling all my family about it. I was like, yo, I started reading the Bible, and they were all telling me like, oh, like, yeah, here's some here's a reader's guide, and they like, they was skipping all around. I was like, nah, I'm gonna just read it from front to back, because I think whoever put together the Bible, they probably put it together in a certain order, so it made sense, right? Like whoever put it together and whoever let this, because the best-selling book of all time, it has to be put in a certain order to make sense, right? The best-selling book of all time wasn't just slopped together and need like a reader's guide. Like it's in the order that it's in for a reason. That's my belief, right? And in my opinion, I was right. So I read it. I read about all the laws. And then when I got to the end of the 5 first books, I read about all the punishments for not following the laws, and I could apply that to my life, and because I lived all of this stuff, so it was so accurate. In my mind, I was like, yo, this can't be. I was like, this book is real. I'm like, after reading these rules and the punishments for them, I've lived these punishments, all of them. So either this is a scary coincidence that happened a couple hundred times over the past 5-6 months, or this is just real, and this is what my life is being judged by, right? So like I said, like, it could have been a coincidence, but like I didn't err on the side of coincidence, because I looked at my life and there was nowhere in my life where things went wrong where I couldn't see one of these rules. I'm like, yo, I did do that, and this did happen to me. And then I looked at, my demographic as a whole, how we were living in Philadelphia and the surrounding suburbs, right? Because I've lived in Delaware, Wilmington and Newark, Delaware, Bear, Delaware. I've lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've lived in West Philadelphia. I've lived in Southwest Philadelphia. I've lived in Brooklyn, New York. I lived in Crown Heights. And then later on, when I was an adult, right, I went to college in Chicago. Worked in DC as an adult, and made it down to Florida, Orlando, and then Miami, Florida. And I saw how, like, first I'm gonna address my demographic, right? People in Philadelphia, and the surrounding areas, and people just in the Northeast in general. And I saw like our lifestyle, and I learned after a while, looking back after moving and going to Chicago and the different areas and things like that. I kind of learned like the savagery of our culture. Like, I couldn't explain it. I just knew I just didn't want to be a part of it after I, got older. After I had my first child, I was like, I don't want to parts of this. Like, this is like, and I moved somewhere different, and I saw like people in other areas do not behave like this. I was kind of like, I wasn't done with it, because I still, would go to church and things like that. I still would take my kids around, my family up there and things like that, and I still would hang out in Philadelphia and things like that. But in my mind, I was pretty much like, yeah, this is not a great thing. It's not a great place to be. And when I was reading the Bible and I read these rules, it kind of put the pieces of, because you don't know why things are the way they are. You don't know why there's so much hate going around. You don't know why people are stealing from each other, families robbing families, people are just out here losing their minds, killing each other and things like that. You don't know why those things are happening. But when I read the Bible, especially the books of law, I understood why things were the way they were in Philadelphia clearly. I understood what we were doing wrong, and I in my heart I understood before, but I didn't know. Like, in your heart you have an understanding of what's right and what's wrong, right? You see, hey, bro, you're not supposed to be putting your hands on people. But at the end of the day, right, if you live in an area where, if I step outside, it's not much talking going on. Like, if it's a problem with me and another guy, we gonna fight. And, if the fight doesn't go whoever's way and whoever has a gun, like, was probably there might be some shots fired, right? And you could say from the outside looking in, that's wrong. But when you're there, ground zero, it doesn't look wrong because you're just responding to what happened that day, right? This is what happened today, and this is what normally happens in this situation. You can carry that through every area, right? Through every area in the world, and you can carry that through every walk of life. So that doesn't just go with inner city lifestyle. That goes to like office lifestyle. Heck, everybody goes to, everybody is creating fake 501(c)(3)s and doing fake donations so they don't have to pay taxes and things like that. Everybody's doing, some breaking some law, or everybody's, businessmen. Oh, everybody's, getting prostitutes, whatever, right? And you can say, like, when you're at ground zero and you're looking at it, you say, well, it's not necessarily wrong because I worked to get to this point in life, and this is what goes on. And even if it is a little wrong, like, hey, everybody else is doing it. We're all like, they're fine, But when you read the law, you see what's wrong, what's right, and you get the punishments for it. And the punishments may not come to you that day. It might be something that comes to you when you have your first child, right? It might be a birth defect. It might be something that comes to you when you want to retire, and instead of you having a nice life after retirement, your pension disappears, and you have to work until you're 80 years old and just be broke, right? It's things like that happen, but people don't know why. They scream, why me? If you have to say why me, it's because you don't have any understanding. These laws, and from what I've seen, and it's not even my opinion, I've read it. If you take the time to read it, you'll see yourself. These laws give you kind of like they'll give you foresight into what's going to happen into your life. You could tell, you'll be able to know by looking at your actions today. You'll be able to know what's coming tomorrow. It'll be in your dreams. You will become prophetic, because you will know why life happens the way it happens, right? And what's coming to you. You'll know by your actions, right? And then that plays into the New Testament, talking about judging yourself and things like that. You'll be able to thoroughly judge yourself based on your actions, where you could not have before because you didn't know the law. And that's why I'm putting this out there, because I know there's a lot of people in all walks of life, not just inner city. And I've lived in a lot of walks of life, right? Like, I've lived in inner city, right? I've lived in a suburb. I've lived in a metropolitan area where it's not necessarily, kind of like a yuppie lifestyle, you would say. I've lived that student lifestyle. I've lived the guy who's getting a lot of money lifestyle down in some beach town, and they all have their different ills and different pits that you can get yourself into, and they all end up. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what, because people say hey, ghetto. I don't want to live that, but it doesn't matter. All these different walks of life, they all have their different pits that you can fall into, and if you don't pull yourself out the pit, they all result in death. And it's one thing to not know why you're dying, or in your heart you know why you're dying, but not address it, and nobody really tells you. You get your warning that may come to you privately or in front of a group of people, or people may have tried to intervene, but you say, well, hey, mind your business, this just happened to me, it's all chance, right? And you can kind of play it off because nobody knows the black and white of what you're doing wrong, right? Nobody can show you, because everybody claims they believe in God, right? But nobody knows the law, so nobody can show you what you're doing wrong and show you what the punishment is for it, to make it clear to you, right? So you can continue to make the wrong decision, and you can continue to put it off on chance and whatever else. And hey, man, this just happened to me. But when you get this law, you'll be able to know what's coming, and you'll be able to pull yourself out the pit, or stay in the pit and live with it, and know why you're there. Right, and you're not gonna be confused. Most people aren't confused, but man, I don't think anybody's actually confused. We all know in our hearts what we're doing wrong, and even if we don't know exactly what we're doing wrong, we know we're doing something wrong. We need to tighten up. But this here will give you the black and white of tighten up, right? Because you may, like, there are big things in your life. Like, let's say, let's say you have a problem lying, right? Lying and misleading people is wrong. Scamming people is wrong, right? You might not know putting your hands on somebody is wrong, but you losing your temper is wrong. Because after you come back to, you like, well, dang, what's going to be you wouldn't be worried about the consequences of, what you just did if it was all right, right? So we all know it's wrong, and this will tell you how to make it right in black and white, so you don't have to guess, right? And then once you get past those big things that you know are wrong, and you become more fine-tuned in how you go about life and more prophetic about what's coming to you, you'll be able to then start fine-tuning and taking out the little things that might, be disrupting your life. And, I don't want anybody to take this journey because you think you're going to be rich, but you be able to have whatever you want. Once you start fine-tuning and everything that's coming and you're doing right, all your blessings are coming to you, and you've done your homework. I mean, God takes account of that. Like, if you do your research, which is easier to do the research now because, someone like myself, I had to go through the KJV and find all these laws because I didn't trust anything that was on the internet, because everything that's on the internet is pretty much wrong or very vague, right? With the laws that they put out there, they use words for things instead of just writing the whole thing out in plain English, right? So with this being on the internet now, the kingslaw.com, you don't have to go through the KJV and decipher what law is where and what these words mean, right? You can go up there and just read these 500 plus laws straight out and apply them to your life, or, judge yourself against that and start, fine tuning what you do from day to day. And that is a lot easier than a lot of other people before you had it. It's a lot easier than especially myself. This took me years to make, and even if you don't want to trust me, because there was no other hands who were in this, right? You can say, like, I'm not going, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, not the most well-read guy in the world. I'll be honest, this is probably the only book I've read from front to back in my entire life. I read it like 3 times. I've read books in school and stuff like that, in college and things like that, but I never read a book from front to back. I've read what I need to read to do an assignment. So yeah, it's probably the only book I've read from front to back in my entire life. I read it a couple of times. And so even if you don't trust me when you go on the website, the intention of the website is to be a community where people can make comments, and those comments can result in changes, right? If you go off and do your study and you say, hey man, something ain't right about this one, I don't think he got the word, the verbiage on this right, I don't think he translated this correctly, right? You can leave comments, you can make objections. The site is meant to be a collective, kind of like a Facebook for the law, so people can all come together and make comments and things like that, and then there can be another iteration where things may get corrected or clarified. So it's not just set in stone. I'm not your God. I'm not trying to be a God. I'm putting it out there as a collaborative space. That's what it is. And it's meant to stay up there and evolve over time and become perfected. That's what it's there for. It's not there for me. I just made the base. It's not mine. It's a collective. Or it will become a collective. And the book is something that's out there that will be released in iterations after maybe a year's worth of updates, clarifications, or corrections to verbiage in these laws and things like that. Then the next volume will come out. It's not gonna be any major changes because I took my time making this. You know what I mean? So I don't know how much I missed, but I can't imagine it's too much, right? But though that's what the book is there for to keep the website up past me, right? So the book is only like $10. Not much money is gonna come from it, but hopefully, I believe firmly that this book, if you have the Bible, you should have that book. If you go to church, you should have that. But if you claim you whatever religion you are, right? If you claim you believe in God, the same God that delivered Moses the law, if you claim you believe in that, which most of these religions out here do these days, the Catholics, the Christians, the Muslims, the Jewish people, Mormon, they all claim they believe in the God that delivered the law to Moses. You should have this book, or you should be collaborating on the website, right? And then hopefully this book will keep the website up past me, right? The funds from the book will keep the website running, because running the website ain't free. And that's what all that's for. It's for a community to keep it up there and keep it visible for folks, so that this doesn't become something that's lost again. Because I truly believe, like, even though the Bible is the best selling book of all time, I believe the law has been lost. Not in the culture of Judaism, because they had the Torah, which is only the first 5 books of law, but they also have the Talmud too, which has a whole bunch of other things in it. And part of the law tells you, look, don't add or take from this. So if we all have the Bible and we all believe in God, the same God that gave Moses the law, and we all have our different religions that have different rules and things like that, you know what I'm saying? Once you read the law, which you should, right? If you claim you believe in God, you should just take a gander at it one time, You shouldn't go your whole life and say, I'm not going to read it. What does that make you? Maybe it may change the way you feel about some of the institutions you subscribe to, and some of the other rules you subscribe to, or maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong, and then maybe you could send me a message and tell me where I'm tripping. And that's what we're here for. That's what the King's Law podcast is about. I don't know where I'm at on time right now, but that is what the King's Law podcast is about. And another thing I want to say is a lot of people who are older than myself. Right now, I'm 33. People who, a lot of them younger than myself, and a lot of them older than myself, who may be stuck in their ways, right? They may read this and say they don't want to make the adjustments, or something in here might come off wrong to them, right? Which to me is it's not humble, right? Because if God delivered this to Moses, and then you read it and you say, nah, that ain't right. That's not relevant. That don't apply to my life. How are you going to say the entity that gave you life gave you something that is irrelevant to your life? It's disrespectful. So, but if you are that stuck in your ways and you feel that this doesn't apply to you and you don't need to read it, maybe you could just give it to your kids as something to study, so that they know God's law at a young age and can build on that and live a better life from youth, right? Kind of like McDonald's. Give you a Happy Meal, and then when you get older, you go back and get your double cheeseburger. I don't, but a lot of people do. And it's good because everything is in plain text, right? You don't have to do all the research that someone like a Jesus did, right? Leaving the house at 13, because back then, not everybody had a copy of the Torah or the Bible readily available online, or at their church, right? You had to go down to see the priest and get the ancient scrolls, right? And you had to learn to read the scrolls, and then you had to study the scrolls there. You couldn't, take a screenshot and go home. Jesus had to make that type of sacrifice to learn the law. I had to only make the sacrifice of buying a copy of the KJV and, trying to get everything into, my vernacular, which is, a lot less work than that. But, getting it up on the internet was a trying thing. And, so now it's even simple. It's made more simple for anybody else who wants to look at it, right? Now you got a list of everything, and you can go back and check that against the Bible, and you can teach your kids quickly, or, your kids can teach themselves. And if you are a kid listening to this, when I say kid, I mean someone who's less than 8, younger than 18, right? You can take this and, you can use this as a compass, because, a lot of us, right, our parents may be stuck in their ways, He may take you to church or not, or they may not be around at all, right? But if they are teaching you wrong things, let's say your father or mother likes to steal, and they start teaching you how to steal, as long as you got the law, right, you have a good compass of what is right and wrong, no matter who is corrupted in your life. And I feel like that's why we need it, right? Because none of us are perfect. Not me. I'm not going to say not even me, like you thought I was perfect. You probably know I'm not, right? But not me, not anybody is perfect, right? But through the study of the law, we can get closer to perfect. Or, if somebody gets ambitious, they can become perfect, right? But you should give someone the ability or space to do that. And if you are young and you found yourself here, right, that's a blessing for you, because I didn't have this, right? All I had was church. And I did have the Bible, but I didn't read it, right? And I didn't have the context of kind of what was in there. We did do studying in Sunday school, but nobody talked to me like this about what was in there, right? I mean, most churches you go to, you tell them you reading the Bible from front to back. They tell you, what you doing that for? Ain't nothing in there for you. It's not, half of it's irrelevant, right? That's what they'll tell you. Because, that's what they told me. And a lot of people got angry with me when I told them I was reading the Bible. And to me, for church going, God claiming folks, that just didn't make any sense. But that's the way most people are, unfortunately, these days. So if you happen to be young, you come across this, man, you are blessed, bro. Take your time and don't judge yourself immediately. It's a process. Because like I told you, I was 27 when I realized that the law and commandments wasn't just the 10 commandments, right? It's a bunch of stuff in here, and it's in black and white and repeated like 4 times, and there's even consequences in here, right? And then once you get further and you have more understanding, you'll start realizing that after the books of law, right, then you have kind of like the history books of Israel, and you say, whoa, that don't apply to my life, right? I'm not an Israelite. But it does apply to your life, because what you see, all those stories, they're like case law for what happens when you do or do not follow the law. That's what they are. So when you read those books, right, you'll be able to see, because in a lot of the laws, like a lot of the smaller laws, right, they don't give you, not in smaller laws, right, you're supposed to follow all of them, but they don't give you like direct punishments, right? But that's for you to decipher when you read kind of like the history books of Israel, right? Because in there, if you really pay attention, the story is not there for a history lesson for you. The story is there as case law, like, hey, they did this, and then this happened to them. And if you don't know the law, the story is meaningless. If you don't know the law, the New Testament is meaningless. If you don't know the law, God is meaningless, right? Because you don't know God's will. So if you claim that you follow God and you don't take interest in what his will and what his commandments are for you, that doesn't make any sense. That's like me saying I have a father and my dad is a good dad, but yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't listen to his rules. I never listen to anything he said. That didn't make any sense. Like, what kind of child does that make you, if you really think about it? I don't want to get into all that right now, but this is who the podcast is. The podcast is for, the book is for, the website is for, because we're not perfect, and you need something to help you when you fall and you don't have someone to help you up, right? Because there are a lot of people around you who will judge you and tell you you're wrong or right, but you really don't know, right? Everybody has their own issues. They could be telling you you're wrong based on how they feel about you, right? Not anything based in faith, and this kind of takes that out, especially for the youth and for the young adults and for the older folks who may have never, taken this journey and read these things for themselves, and they can go back and look and they can say, hey, man, if they want to be honest with themselves. If you want to be honest with yourselves, you can say, hey, dang, I didn't look at this. And now that I'm looking at it, dang, I was doing this for a long time, and this did hinder my life a little bit. You know what I mean? And you can, it's never too late to rectify what went wrong. Or, you can have peace and know, like, hey, don't going forward, I'm not gonna do that anymore. Like, I'm gonna get this right, and maybe I can teach my kids and my grandkids, hey, there's something better out there instead of just do as you want. You know what I mean? And whatever happens, happens. And that is what this is about, and that's what this will be about in the future. I hope you're interested. You should come back and listen. This is just the intro, Don't get offended by anything I say, because none of this is my words at the end of the day. Everything I'm going to tell you, or everything I'm going to talk about, as far as, regarding these laws, came straight from the Bible, which, if you believe in God, as far as the books of law go, Moses went up on Mount Sinai, right, and met up with God and got the law. So all this came directly from God. So, in my personal life over the years, I've had a lot of discussions with people about these things, right? Some older, some younger, some men, some women, right? Some of my girlfriends, some of my friends, some whatever, right? And I was very surprised. A lot of people would get offended by some of the things in here and say, just because they were offended, they would say, that's not right. And it's a little wild to me, man. Because at the end of the day, right, if you believe in God and you say, okay, well, what's in the Bible is relevant, it's real, it applies to my life because I read it and this makes sense. And then you read one thing that offends you and you just disregard it. Like, that is, I don't know, it's a little disrespectful. It is disrespectful, man, to God, for real, because it didn't come from me, right? So, if you have an issue, take it up with God. Maybe he'll make maybe he'll redact something and give it to you. It's like, nah, I doubt it. But yeah, that's it. That's what the podcast is about. And I'm not going to give like a cadence of when things are going to come out, right? But this is the first episode, and thank you for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, or you want me to talk about anything, you can reach me at, I'll give you this email address for now. At this point in time, you can reach me at dturner2341, so that's D as in David, TURNER 2341 at gmail.com. You want me to talk about a subject or talk about something on here, or if you have an objection, right, you can send it to me and maybe I can talk about it on the podcast. And you can go to www.thekingslaw.com and you can leave a comment on the sidebar. There's like a little message button. You can leave a comment there. That website is brand new. There's going to be a lot of features added. I'm not going to say everything that's going to be added, right, because it's all happening. But there's going to be features added. Don't worry. What's there right now is just the base. And that's all I have. I'm going to sign off and say have a good night or morning, whichever one you're listening to this in.